They stormed the Grand Mosque in Mecca, and after desecrating its sanctity, they declared the emergence of the awaited Mahdi. Today we talk about Juhayman al-Otaybi and the siege of Mecca. Around 41 years ago, the entire world woke up to an incident that shook the Islamic nation. At the beginning of the new Hijri century, an armed group, led by Juhayman al-Otaybi, stormed the Grand Mosque in Mecca. After holding the pilgrims and worshippers hostage, they announced the appearance of the awaited Mahdi, who would rid the world of corruption. The truth is, there aren't many known details about Juhayman al-Otaybi before this incident. All that is known is that he was semi-illiterate and did not complete primary education. When he grew up, he started working as a driver in the Saudi National Guard. Despite this, he had a very strong charisma, through which he was able to gather a group of young people around him who believed in the same ideas. Together, they formed a group called the Salafi group that commands right and forbids wrong. This group opposed the Saudi ruling system and saw it as the source of widespread corruption in the kingdom. They believed it was time for a change, but they were afraid of being accused of rebelling against the ruler. So, they decided to execute their plan in a rather difficult way. On November 20, 1979, after the worshippers finished the Fajr prayer, they were surprised by a group of people pulling out weapons and automatic rifles from the coffins they had brought with them. Before anyone could understand what was happening, one of the group members took the microphone from the imam and started telling the people that corruption had spread everywhere and that this was a sign of the end times. He also told them that the awaited Mahdi, who would rid the earth of corruption and spread justice, was with them at that moment. People began to object to what was happening, but before they could do anything, Juhayman ordered all of his followers to control the entrances and exits of the Grand Mosque and prevent anyone from leaving. Within 2 hours, the Grand Mosque was completely under their control. Around 7 in the morning, the police sent 2 patrols to find out what was happening in the Grand Mosque. But before they could get out of their vehicles, they were picked off by snipers stationed on the minarets around the mosque. The situation became very tense, especially since Saudi Arabia had never faced such a situation before. Prince Nayef arrived in Mecca and ordered his soldiers to besiege the Grand Mosque while ensuring calm to prevent bloodshed inside the mosque and maintain the safety of the hostages. Indeed, the police began calling out to the rebels through microphones, asking them to surrender and release their hostages. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, to everyone inside the Grand Mosque, the act you have committed is not pleasing to Allah and is forbidden in His holy book. Therefore, the government of His Majesty King Khalid gives you this warning. Surrender yourselves and lay down your arms. But Juhayman al-Otaybi refused to comply and forced the 100,000 pilgrims in the mosque to pledge allegiance to the person with him as the awaited Mahdi. At this time, Muslim scholars gathered and issued a fatwa allowing Saudi forces to storm the Grand Mosque and rid it of the rebels inside. Indeed, the very next day, the police began targeting the minarets where the snipers were stationed, and around 200 soldiers and an armored battalion decided to storm the mosque through the Al-Masa passage. The attack plan relied on 3 axes. The first axis was to enter from the Al-Mawa entrance, the second axis was to enter through the passage leading to the Al-Safa entrance, and the last axis focused the attack on the upper passage. The truth is, this storming was not easy at all. As soon as the soldiers entered, the rebels started burning the curtains and tires they had with them to create thick smoke that would blind anyone's vision. They also smeared their faces with black charcoal to make it difficult to distinguish them from the smoke. They indeed caused significant losses among the soldiers. It is said that during the fighting, the person claiming to be the awaited Mahdi whose name was Muhammad Abdullah al-Qahtani, decided to face the soldiers himself. When his followers tried to stop him, he scolded them and said, "What are you afraid of? I am the awaited Mahdi, and nothing can happen to me. I cannot die." He then grabbed a gas cylinder and a burning cloth and threw it at the soldiers, letting it explode among them. Muhammad's confidence in himself greatly increased after this incident, and he began to truly believe that he was the awaited Mahdi. Because of this, he started taking the grenades that were being thrown at him and throwing them back at the Saudi soldiers, successfully doing so many times. However, on the fourth day, a grenade exploded near him, causing him to catch fire and resulting in his immediate death. The rebels saw the person they claimed was the Mahdi die in front of them, and when their confidence began to shake, Juhayman shouted at them that this was a lie and that the Mahdi could not die. He ordered them to hide in the shelters beneath the mosque. The police then tried to storm these shelters and cellars, but unfortunately they were unable to achieve their goal because they were not trained for such a task. After this, the king sent a request for help to French President Giscard d'Estaing. The French president responded and sent him 3 of the most skilled officers in the world at that time. The French officers began training the Saudi forces on the use of tear gas and storming techniques. On December 5, 1979, the Saudi forces were indeed able to storm the shelters and arrest the rebels and their leader, Juhayman al-Otaybi. After Juhayman was captured, he was taken to a large hotel in Mecca to be presented to the media. Subsequently, 63 of the rebels were executed in 8 cities across Saudi Arabia, with Juhayman being the first. The truth is, this incident caused significant material and moral losses. Around 270 people died, 127 of whom were Saudi soldiers, 117 were rebels, and 26 were pilgrims. There were also about 450 injured people. After this incident, radical Islamic movements spread around the world, and Khomeini accused the United States of being the mastermind behind the incident. 2 days later, American embassies in Pakistan and Libya were attacked. The truth is, despite the passage of 41 years since this incident, it continued to impact Saudi society, which preferred to isolate itself rather than open up to the world out of fear of a repeat occurrence. Saudi Arabia was not like this before '79. The whole region, including Saudi Arabia, was influenced by the Awakening Project after '79 for many reasons that are not the focus of today's discussion. We were not like this in the past. We're only returning to what we were, the moderate, open Islam that interacts with the world, all religions, traditions, and peoples.